guys.
Good
Hello.
morning.
Morning is right, Stephenie?
Absolutely.
And good afternoon for our side of the world. But good
Of the
morning,
pond.
because we have people who tune in from all different countries. So good morning, good day, good afternoon, good evening. We just feel good. How about that? It's a good day.
It's a good time.
Yes. And so we are so excited today for another segment of Arise and Shine, Stories of Triumph. And Tanya, if today isn't a story of triumph, then I don't know what triumph really looks like. And so I'm going to allow you just to share about our beautiful guest who was up in the wee hours of the morning.
Yes.
How dedicated is
I know.
she?
If that doesn't send a message, right?
Mhm.
This beautiful woman that you see before you, her name is Stephenie Rodriguez. And guess where I met her, guys? I was in a room on Clubhouse. And
Wow.
I was in the audience and I felt as though I was supposed to interact with her. I mean, I reached out to her before I think that room was even done to communicate with her because she had touched my soul with her story. And I encourage you to share this, because this show is it's already blessed me and Benicia.
Yes.
And we constantly say every week, God just continues to bless us with extraordinary guests. And Stephenie lives up to that, because I don't know if she is willing to make an adjustment in her seating, but ladies and gentlemen, she is sitting in a hospital bed.
Yeah.
Doing this interview. Yes, ma'am. It is about 2:00 in the AM in Sydney, Australia.
Yeah.
And still she is here. And let me tell you just a little bit about her, because we're going to talk through most of her bio. But I do want to give you some facts, because not only is she an extraordinary woman, she is an inventor. So Stephenie is on a mission to impact not 1 million, but 1 billion lives by 2025, and democratize safety, and well-being for women and vulnerable people all over the globe. She is a serial entrepreneur. She is a digital maven. Matter of fact, her handle on Instagram is Digital Goddess. And she is an inventor of the Wander Safe Beacon, which I have right here. Oh, Benicia's got hers up soon too. Actually, she sent these from Sydney.
Yes.
For us to have them.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And she's going to tell you guys exactly what they do. It's the world's coolest non-violent personal safety device.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that, if she touches 1 billion lives just to get these in 1 billion hands, the impact on the world is unspeakable. Absolutely unspeakable. There's a few folks in there that are saying good morning already.
Good morning.
Stephenie, happy to see you. And I want to hand over the mic to you, Stephenie, because I want you to say hello and whatever you feel called to share with the folks as we start this journey.
Well, thank you so much again for inviting me, Tanya, and to sit and share with you guys. It's very humbling to be invited, and it's an honor and a privilege to share my story. As we were talking about when we were preparing to go live, it's an unbelievable ordeal. But the Lord doesn't do anything in halves, and I've learned that there's no imperfections in God's will.
That's right.
So I feel blessed, to be able to just physically sit here. And we were discussing earlier with Anisha about, good days and complaints and murmuring.
Yeah.
And, I will share, and I'd like to share, we'll move to that. But, when you have a near-death experience, it changes you.
Mhm.
Yes.
No matter how much you recover from that
Yeah.
almost muscle memory of our soul
Mm.
really becomes one that you lose any attachment to the little things.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that bus, or I didn't make that train, or someone took my parking space.
Mm.
When you learn that God doesn't make mistakes, and wherever you are is exactly where you're supposed to be.
Mm.
Yes.
And if you understand that, as I've learned, not the hard way, but I've learned to appreciate it perhaps in ways that can help others. And if my story can do that, then I'm grateful to be able to serve. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention you'll probably want to have some water nearby, so I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
So people are still rolling in saying thank you, good morning. I'm saying good morning. Thank you, Darlene, Brenda, Sean,
Yes.
Paula,
Good morning,
Leoline.
ladies.
Yes, good morning. And be sure to share, because I know Stephenie's already blessed us and she will continue to do so.
Mhm.
So, Stephenie, it started way before your trip. So give us some background on who Stephenie is and why she's so driven, and then maybe we can head on into today.
Mhm.
Okay.
You know?
Sure. Well, I am originally a Puerto Rican American born in New York. In 1997, I met an Australian doctor in the US, and he proposed to me, and I came back with him to a country I couldn't even find on the globe. It's, about as far on the globe as Puerto Rico is. It's like the other side.
Yeah.
So it made going home, from Australia really a long trip, like 38
Yeah,
hours.
that flight was crazy. I went one time for 5 days and it seemed like it took me a week to get there.
And then you lose the 2 days when we come back, we lose across the mainline. So it is one of planning, but Aussies are great travelers.
Yeah.
So I got my citizenship in Australia and remarried, and I have a 15-year-old son that I am a single parent to. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I'm the oldest daughter in my family. And so, being that my mom worked nights when I was growing up in Virginia, a lot was delegated to me. And I have a sister who's 18 months different. But we're like, we say in Australia, chalk and cheese. Like, I'm super tall, and I developed to almost the same physique I have now in the 6th grade. And she was like the front of the litter. So 18 months apart, but I looked like I was 18 and she looked like she was 4, But it was nuts, the physical differences between us. But being the oldest daughter, I was given a lot of responsibility as a child. And I think that, training and that delegation and the sense of responsibility and caring for others started very early.
Yeah.
My mom is a Pentecostal minister and a missionary. So I was raised in the church, and have taken, I kind of took my own journey with faith, but certainly in the last 18 months, things have definitely just changed almost in a 180 kind of way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
good.
let's
And where I come from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's talk about these last 18 months. Tanya alluded to you actually being in the hospital right now, what many did not know. And I definitely recently learned that you actually had a major surgery on Wednesday. But let's take it back to start from, your journey and really what got you to this place of even having to have this surgery on this week.
Sure. Yep. Well, in 2001, I launched and I franchised a magazine out of Miami called Ocean Drive. If you've been to Miami, you would have seen it. Brought it to Australia and launched it as an entrepreneur, because I was crazy entrepreneurial. I have to be creative and always doing something. And I created the lifestyle category in Australian media. I worked in the tech bubble in 2000 out of Florida in Latin America. And, you know, I love technology and innovation. And I started a consultancy, and I was working with very large multinationals as a digital transformation specialist. So I would go and talk to companies, big companies, about their fragmented communication, their customer experience, the future of social media. This was 2009, so even before it was trendy.
Oh, wow.
We were in that space, and our very first customer was a multinational out of the UK, and so I would spend a lot of time traveling around for work for them, and then I got hired by Club Med to do a big major project with them on customer experience. So I was traveling a lot, and the large multinational that was out of Sydney Airport had me go to Geneva, and I flew into Geneva very late at night, and I went straight to my hotel, and I didn't pay any attention to the exterior. I was so exhausted. And the next morning I got up to go for a run, and I put on my tracksuit and got into the lift, and a very large man, Eastern European, with very bad alcohol-infused breath, stepped into the floor after mine and turned to me and kind of pinned me at the wall, and like his arms were in front of me against the wall, and he said, "How much do I take?" And I went, "Wait a minute."
Holy cow.
I think I just got propositioned. I wasn't sure, but when the elevator finally landed at the lobby, I got under his arm and I ran out. And I looked around, and my hotel was in the middle of the red light district. And because I was alone, he just figured I was there for the trade. And no makeup and in lycra. I didn't think I was that attractive to get propositioned, but it was very confronting. And I would, that experience combined with a trip in 2015, I went to Kenya on a mission to the Edmund Rice Foundation, which is a Catholic charity in Australia. And we went into the Makulu slums, which are some of the World Health Organization's poorest areas. And I noticed that there were girls with their heads shaved, dressed like boys. And I asked two of our colleagues there, Kenyans, from Edmund Rice, I said, "What's the deal?" And they said, "Oh, they're dressed that way so that they can't be determined by gender from a distance. The fear of the spread of HIV and unwanted pregnancy." So I just was confounded by that. And I was so taken aback to learn about the risk of rape, etc., in Kenya amongst this community of more than 2 million people. And I also noticed that they had smartphones, very cheap Androids, but smartphones. So technology had kind of leapfrogged them into doing everything in their smartphones. So I sat down with two of the young ladies from the community center there, the Rubin Center, and asked them why they were teaching martial arts. And one explained that she was raped. And it was my experience, and then 5 years later having this conversation with these girls. And I had a consulting practice that in 2016 I billed $500,000 for my work, but my soul said I wasn't doing the right thing.
My gosh.
Wow.
I said, I have to follow this. And God spoke to me and said, "Solve this problem and make it your mission." And I began to think about the plight of women travelers first, because that was really relevant to me and the girls that I saw. And so I raised a couple $1 million over the last 4 years in a company called Jozu for Women. And Jozu is a Japanese word that means well done or better than. So being that Jozu is a very powerful word, and what we were aiming to do was help women travel better and safer. I was reached out by several members in the community and friends saying, please don't eliminate us from being able to take advantage of whatever you're building. And I was invited to the Silicon Valley in 2017, 2018, to be a part of a women's startup workshop. And I was told that my idea was rubbish and I needed to productize. And of course, it was everything we know about the bias in technology.
Yeah.
Old white men from Stanford who were telling me that there was no viability in my idea and building a solution that would empower women and vulnerable people. But it didn't stop me. Getting this advice about productizing, I went back to my co-founders, my technical co-founder in Lisbon, Portugal, his name is Paulo, and said, we need to build something that's useful. And I confided in a colleague of mine named Thomas Pecora, and Thomas and I were discussing safety. And he said, safety, as we teach the CIA, because he's 28 years in the CIA, he was actually in Benghazi for all that went down that we know about in the US. He was there. He said, we teach in the CIA that it comes down to three things: information, environmental awareness, and equipment. And when he said equipment, I went like, tasers and things? And he went, no. He said, because women fear that if it's violent, it can be used against them. So why give your adversary a weapon, So, and for that reason, women categorically and statistically don't like to carry violent self-defense items because it could go terribly wrong and they could fall on their own sword. Wow. So he said, there are other ways around it. And he talked me through that. And he said that first, understanding that bad things happen in the dark. Yeah. And I went, okay. And he said that, if you can distract somebody or an animal, you can buy yourself some time. If you change the moment, you can change the outcome. Yeah. And, being able to call for help faster. And, we discussed the human condition and fear. And sometimes if we're really terrified, we can't speak. We can't even say anything. Well, let's raise our voice and call for help. So I was listening, and I got a piece of paper, and I drew a device on a piece of paper and said, if it's got these functionalities, will it be viable? And he said, if it has those functionalities, then you're 87% less likely, if you're confronted, that somebody will put their hands on you because you are better prepared than they think you are.
That's so good.
That's
amazing.
Of basically the beacon.
Yes. Tanya.
I know, right?
And it's why. So to say that after we developed this product and launched it in Cannes on Gandhi's birthday, International Day of Nonviolence, which is in October, we would go to win Best New Travel Accessory of 2019 in duty free, as judged by 5,000 shoppers. And I went to, personally, in April of 2019, I went to Geneva again, and I spoke at the WSIS Forum, which works with the UN on technology. And I stood up and I said, my name is Stephenie Rodriguez, and I'm on a mission to impact 1 billion lives by 2025 and democratize safety. And that's what we're here to do. And I attended another event called Hive in Scotts Valley, California in August. And I stood there and said the exact same thing. And it was very much about finding a purpose and understanding that with Hive and their Global Leaders Forum. But there was a group of women from Africa that were in my dorm room, and we just gravitated towards each other. And I've been so long living outside of the US, but so I often feel like an expat when I come home because I've been gone for so long. But I just fell in love with these amazing women from the Congo and from Nigeria. And they invited me to come and speak at their Hive event, Hive Africa, which was held in September in Lagos, Nigeria in 2019. And my team leader for Hive was from India, and he was the organizer of Hive India. And again, these beautiful women from India, where violence against women is rampant. So when these people heard what my mission was, I had tears. I had women say, "Thank you for doing this."
Yes.
In my village or where I come from, women are getting killed every day. And I said, "Oh, we made an app. The app is free. Download it, use it. Call for help with it." So I was invited to Africa and India, which were back-to-back weeks. And this product was in production. And so I went there and I spoke to groups of people. And on the Sunday, my last speaking event, the host invited me to go outside for a photo with all the delegates. And I obliged that with drones and all this high-tech stuff. It took about an hour to get all these photos, but we were there and it was sunset and there was a beautiful fountain next to where we were taking all these pictures. And I was outside in Lagos, Nigeria for about 3 hours. I went on to India and I would meet with our customers like bookings.com. I spoke at the Australian High Commission, which was exciting, with the ambassador and the commissioner to India. And I came back to Australia on Wednesday, refreshed myself, and on Thursday, like a maniac, flew to Boston. And I had a meeting in Boston with my sister in Christ, but also sister in the OSEC, the U.S. State Department Division for Overseas Security of U.S. Citizens. We sit on the Women in Security Council together. And I went over and met with her, went to a baseball game with my best friend on the Friday night, Red Sox versus Orioles. Orioles killed them.
Of course they did. Hello.
So we, on the Sunday, my son had asked me to get him a pair of Nikes that he couldn't find in Australia. So we rang around to Foot Lockers, went over to pick up the shoes, got back to the hotel, packed up, went to the airport, and we are checked in, go into the Delta Lounge for a little, pre-boarding, nice little going away drink and some food. And my best friend Liz got up and walked to get some food and came back. And the man next to her said, "I think there's something wrong with your friend." He looked at me and I was drooling. I was absent and I was having a seizure.
Oh, God.
And she couldn't get me back. She screamed, "Is there a doctor in the house?" Just like the movies. And there were 3 physicians or people, medicos in the lounge, I'm told. They put me on a gurney, wheeled me through a very busy airport, shoving people out of the way. And I was, diagnosed 20 hours later with cerebral malaria.
Jesus.
And cerebral malaria, there are 4 different kinds of malaria I would learn later. But cerebral malaria, no one hears about because nobody lives from it. It has a 97.7% fatality rate. So I'm a 2%er for that.
2%er. Look at God. Jesus.
Well, the hospital didn't have artesunate, which is the drug that was developed for combating this parasite, the world's deadliest parasite. So I've had a 2-week, basically an invasion in my body that's trying to kill me, because that's what this parasite was trying to do. And they had to get the drugs from the CDC in Atlanta, fly them up to Boston. Thank God I had travel insurance. And anyone listening to me, please, travel insurance, if you can't afford it, don't go. 100%, because travel insurance saved my life. As God, but getting me the right medical attention. It was a call that my business partner made for me. When I was going to Africa and India, she bought me an annual policy with an unlimited coverage from an Australian carrier with my plane ticket.
Wow,
that was just foresight, a foreshadowing, or synchronicity, or whatever you want to call it. But having that travel insurance policy when I got sick meant that hospital threw every resource at me that they could, and I was at the Harvard Teaching Hospital. But in that coma, and while they were administering the medicine to kill the parasite, I developed blood poisoning, also known as sepsis, and went into severe septic shock. So, and that is a killer as well. So it was kind of, every single thing that could, invade my body and take me is trying to. And while I'm in this coma, my best friend has to go on Facebook, find my family that she might know or think. She rang my ex-husband, and they together to call for help. So my family on my father's side, my auntie, my brother, and they're all people of faith. My mom, my half-sister, they showed up, and many a prayer were uttered around my bed. But my abuelita, my grandmother in Puerto Rico, is a prayer warrior. She's 96, I believe, right now. But, she is a woman of faith, and she's always been one of faith. And I think sometimes when I have adversity and overcome it, that's Abuela's prayers that saved me.
Yes.
But I remember in the coma, and it's ironic because the hospital sent me a copy of my medical file. And in my medical file, it reads, and when I read this, 5 or 6 months later, when I finally got home, that, the doctors wrote and informed my family 3 different times that I wouldn't make it through the night.
My God.
I didn't have 30 minutes. Call the priest.
What a roller coaster ride, Stephenie. What a roller coaster ride.
And so the chaplain who came and to do there were discussions to my best friend, do you want to take her home in a box or in a jar? Just the trauma that everybody experienced around this by way of being my family member and being by my bedside when I was, full of methylene blue. They gave me some, one particular drug called methylene blue that turned me like Violet from Willy Wonka. And I had 11 liters of fluid in me. So I was a Michelin purple woman in ICU on full life support. It was awful.
Wow.
I've seen the photos. But, with the family gathered by the bed and the priest, the chaplain, whatever he was, whatever, I don't know what denomination he was, it doesn't matter. But when he was praying, my family said, no. You speak to you speak to malaria and call it out.
Come on.
Not just say a prayer and wish her well. It's not thy kingdom come, thy will be done. It's, we rebuke thee and parasite be gone.
Amen. Amen.
And that's what was being spoken over my body at that time. But it wasn't just there. My auntie in Florida, her friends, their prayer circles. I had met the most amazing man in Nigeria who also was a speaker at Hive. And his name is Bishop Feb Idahosa. And he leads a huge congregation in Benin City. And I met him. And so, there were various people around the world with their congregations. My name was being held up in prayer.
Yes.
And, when the doctors were telling my family in the daily briefing or whatever it was, on the shifts about my condition, they said, the data says that she won't survive this. And my auntie, God bless her, Titi Marcy, she said, you don't know my God and you don't know my God. and you might have data and you might have case studies, but this is the X factor.
Yes.
So waking up from the coma was a beautiful thing. I think it was day 13. But I woke up to a lot of people look very emotional. And I remember in the coma a couple of things. My auntie put the phone next to my ear and she played His Eyes on the Sparrow from Sister Act 2. And I remember hearing it and singing in my head. I was in no pain, but singing in my head, and thinking what a beautiful state I was in, even though I didn't know what state I was in. But she was reaching me, and that reached me,
Yes.
And when I finally began to come out of that coma, I have a prayer that I recite every night and recite it as a chant almost. And I remember just being in my body and repeating it over and over again, back and forth, that inner voice My
Yes.
programming was about surviving
Yeah.
and being thankful and being grateful.
My
And
God.
when I finally woke up, I was intubated, so I couldn't talk for about 3 days. But when they finally took the tube out of my throat and extubated me, and the doctors made their ward rounds at 6 o'clock in the morning, as they do, and I didn't have a tube in my throat, I said to them, how many of you believe that I was going to die? And they looked at each other like, do we tell her this or do we not? And I said, no, I really, really, really want to know.
Mm-hmm.
And 80% of those doctors said we had you as a goner.
Jesus.
So the known, the data, the facts, but then you add the X factor, which is faith and mission. And a very wise woman in Miami, I've known for several years. She's Jamaican. She's a spiritual healer, and she works with God and God works with her. And I spoke to her on the phone from Boston once I got out of ICU and could use a phone. And she said to me that I didn't have malaria and sepsis. I had pure evil. She said
Jesus.
there was evil number one with your mission that was there to take you out.
Yes.
And it tried once and it tried twice. And we vanquished two of the world's deadliest things that you can come across. And I don't know how I did it because I wasn't present for it. But the journey hasn't stopped there, because when I woke up from the coma, I could move nothing but my head and my mouth. So I couldn't lift my arm to scratch my nose, and it itched because it was full of tape and tubes. All I wanted to do was scratch my nose, and I couldn't.
The simplest thing. The simplest thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I learned the gratitude. It's like be grateful, grateful, grateful. Because coming out of that, but having to rehab my entire body. But when I woke up, my right hand was bandaged and both of my feet were bandaged, and my toes were turning purple. Now, I've never had purple toes, and they didn't know what was from the methylene blue. But in that coma, when I had 30 minutes to live, the doctors said to my family, there's one thing we can try. We can try this. And they administered to me vasopressors, which are drugs that push blood away from your extremities into your vitals. And they had been giving me this at a 60-40 regimen. But they said, we'll give it to her 100% as a last-ditch exercise. Like, this is all we got left. But they said, she'll suffer collateral damage. And my family said, she won't care. Just give it your best go. And they did. And at that point, I improved and came to. But the collateral damage from stealing blood away from my feet and my hands at this critical time left me with injuries that were very much like gangrene that you get from mountain climbing and getting frostbite. And, I did the Wim Hof breathing. I did everything I could. And my feet were turning purple, and it was like blistered and super painful. And I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't get out of bed for like 4 months. On day 38, I was airlifted back to Australia. Still, I could walk, I could stand up, but my feet were so damaged that it hurt too much. So I couldn't walk, but I could stand. And so that was a really good sign that the doctors felt that I would improve. But the feet were like iffy, And so when I got back, airlifted back to Australia, the first doctor that examined me said double amputations from the knees down.
My God.
I went, Jesus. No, that's not how I see my life going.
My
God. Indeed. My God, indeed. And I just, I had faith that I could be healed. And so I turned the amputations down November 4th, I think it was, of 2019. But I still had a bunch of recovery to do because I was on total organ failure. Like, my body was minutes from death. Like, everything had shut down in that sepsis coma. So everything I had to do was try and rebuild that, but the focus was really on my feet because they were so damaged. And we didn't know like what was good and what wasn't. And so I spent more than 260 days in hospital between now and September 29th. I had 28 operations last year.
My God.
And I was informed in February, the anniversary of my first amputations. Last February, I lost all 10 of my toes, and my heels were taken off. 70% of my right foot was damaged and had to be removed.
Wow.
So losing all 10 toes meant, ladies who are listening, love shoes. That's me. Strappy shoes, beautiful sandals. You know, I was a shoe person, but all 10 toes were gone, and that was hard. Because I actually had nice feet, and I liked my feet. I was good with them, but you know, losing the toes first, trying to heal the heels, all the prayer and everything we would do. I had a conversation on my Facebook Live with Bishop Feb Idahosa, and we had a conversation. And you can go back on my reels and see it on Instagram. It's about an hour-long conversation about faith and about leaps of faith. And I had an MRI in February, and the MRI showed that my heels were dead and that my feet would be unviable. And even if they closed over and healed all the skin to cover, that I'd never walk on them again anyway. And I'm like, but I've got this mission to impact 1 billion lives by 2020. I got stuff to do. You know, I got to get on with it.
Amen. I got stuff to do. I love that. Yes.
Well, my mission wasn't complete. And, you know, even tonight, a doctor walked in my room and she asked me about how I coped being a 2%er. Like, how do you feel about surviving such an ordeal? And then with such trauma, like 28 operations and 260 days in the hospital, you know, and being a single mom to a teenager, like, how did I do it with a lot of help in a foreign country when all my family are in the States, and I'm in Australia, so I had to do this alone. And I don't have a partner. So again, I had to do it alone. But, you know, Tony Robbins says that, you know, adversity teaches us a couple things. It teaches us who our friends are, and it teaches us how strong we really are.
Yes.
And for me, I had been in 2 marriages over 20 plus years, and I had never faced anything like this single-handedly. But you know, I feel so empowered now. I don't think that's the reason why I went through such an ordeal. That even this past Wednesday, and why I'm sitting in the hospital now after being given the news that my feet were unviable and unsavable, and they were super painful. I lived in a world of pain, like nerve pain, bone pain. I had exposed bone. When I took my shoes and bandages off, I could see my own heel bone. No one should ever see their bones, ever. And, you know, so I had these feet that didn't serve me, that hurt. And I had this conversation with Bishop Idahosa, Bishop Feb, and he's like, you know, if you seek the face of God and the answer will come. And I already lost my toes, which I was very attached to. But this was and being in a wheelchair. I was in a wheelchair for 17 months, and people would see me all dressed and makeup on, and even put shoes on those feet full of bandages with no toes, and they would try to figure out what was wrong with me. They couldn't tell.
Yeah.
And I was okay with it because I didn't have to show up as I was disabled, but no one could figure out why. And so the option of having bilateral amputations of my feet was a really hard decision. But, you know, I just went and I prayed about it, and, you know, God said, you know, you take a leap of faith and I'll meet you there.
My God.
In 2015, I attended TEDx here in Australia, and I'm a TEDx patron. And there was a doctor speaking, and he was a refugee from Iraq, and he was asked to cut off ears in Saddam Hussein's regime, and he fled, and he came to Australia as a refugee. and he got back into medicine, and he was doing robotic surgery and helping amputees walk again. And I heard his TED Talk, gave him a standing ovation, and met him in 2015, exchanged LinkedIn details, emailed each other, never thinking I'd ever need him again.
My God.
A pioneer of this type of surgery. So there's a program in Australia called NDIS, and it helps people with mobility challenges, to get the care that they need and the assistance and support. And so I applied for the program, and the first question they ask is, what do you want? And my goal was very simple. I want to walk again. I got stuff to do, and I can't do it here, and I'm in pain. And the second question was, who can help you get there? And this guy's name is Manjid Al Muderis, and you can Google TEDx Sydney and watch his video where he tells his story of how he got here. But his name came up to me, and I was like, oh my goodness, Manjid. And so I emailed him, and I reminded him we'd met, and I told him my story, and I sent him photos. And within 10 minutes of sending that email, his office called me and said, he'll see you. Can you come in next week? I thought, but I went to him for toes. And he was the one that looked at my MRI and said, sweetheart, your toes are not your problem. You have feet that you're never going to walk on. And if you want to walk, you're going to have to give them up. So on Wednesday, I had bilateral osseointegration surgery. And next Thursday, I'll receive my robotic feet, my training feet, but with the mission to have robotic feet. So I've had osseointegration, which is like Terminator surgery, where they fuse titanium and bone together and work together. So I actually have metal in my body now permanently that the prosthetics will attach to. But, when I had
You're going to be the $1 billion lady, Stephenie, not the $6 million lady, the $1 billion lady.
A billion lives, just a billion lives. And I've shared my story on Instagram and on Facebook and taken people on this very long journey. I have a GoFundMe page that people wanted to donate to. So it's been 18 months of being in a wheelchair. But after the surgery, when I woke up, I'm still in pain and I get phantom pain. But it was like a wall that was around me, which was chronic pain. I was a prisoner of chronic pain, so much that I had zero creativity. I had zero drive. I still had lots of faith, but I couldn't get out of that paradigm. 5-6 days after the surgery, when I'm out of ICU, the wall fell down. I can see the horizon. Like it opened up in such a dramatic, energetic shift. Yeah. It was exactly as God said. You take a leap of faith and I will meet you there. So, it has been an incredible journey. One of my own faith, to believe, like my hand it got damaged and doctors wanted to cut off my thumb and my index finger because in the coma they left the oxygen monitor on and my finger had turned black. This finger had turned black. And there was a giant blister here when I woke up and they wanted to cut it off and I went, nope, you're not taking any bits off of me that don't need taken off. Yeah. And they regenerated. I did have to have hand surgery, but my fingertips remain intact. Yes. And I'm like, thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Lord.
But I had to believe. I had to lead the charge, advocate for myself, and my faith had to get me through it. But I mean, again, I have to credit the faith of every other person who was praying for me over the last 17 months and continues to. Even all the way in Benin City in Nigeria with Bishop Idahosa's, church and ministry there. So, I am a miracle. And in Massachusetts Hospital, they gave me that hashtag, the malaria miracle, because no one had ever seen anyone in that 2% club. The CDC in Atlanta only has 2 patients on their books that have survived this parasite, and I am one of them.
My God.
But anecdotally, Elon Musk also caught cerebral malaria.
Really?
On his honeymoon. And so there was a trivia game going on Clubhouse, and I was laughing because it was about Elon Musk. And I'm like, if that's a question, I got the answer, because he says vacation kills, because he was on his honeymoon and he got bit by a mosquito and he fell ill quickly. Because for me, it took 2 weeks from being bitten on my ankle to reaching my brain and throwing me in a coma. That's a quick decline. And once I was in the coma, if they didn't know to give me the drug, kill the parasite would have killed me within 24 hours.
My God.
So, it had already been activated in my body for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And then presented and put me in a coma. So, the malaria miracle was something that the hospital gave me and adopted. But, I've taken to this time in hospital to really look at our mission, but also to work on a memoir. So I've been writing a book.
That's great.
Yeah.
That will be able to, inspire other people, give them faith, give them hope. And through this journey, it's been such a blessing because so many people reach out to me that I don't even think are looking and say private messages, your story gives us hope.
Yeah.
I don't want to complain about the little things. I look at you and I just,
Yeah.
don't sweat the small stuff.
Stephenie, OMG. Usually, Tanya and I have a lot to say and a lot to interject. But on today, I just really felt the Lord saying, I want her to tell her whole story. And then we're going to circle back around and we're going to ask you some questions. So I was just so enthralled. And I know Tanya was as well, because I didn't know the story in depth. But I want to talk about, man, you said so many things. I should have been taking notes, but one thing stands out in my mind is when you said the doctors wanted to do a certain procedure and your family said she doesn't care, like, do it. It must have been something about your personality, your characteristics, that your family knew that she's a fighter. Yeah. Is that correct? Like, how would they have known to say she doesn't care? Like, do what you have to do.
Well, they know how much I love my son. And in the coma, they were trying, they did lots of brain scans because the question was, because I was actually so long in a coma, would I come out? And it wasn't a medically induced coma. It was one of complete and utter organ failure. And my son's voice was the thing that when I heard his voice, I had brain activity. And I think that when my son arrived finally and was by my bedside talking to me, that was the thing that, that bond between a mother and a child, I think is godly. And his voice, it was what brought me out, but my family know what kind of a mother I am and how much I love my son. They know that I am tenacious. And they also know that I'm on a mission to impact 1 billion lives by 2025. And they watch me raise millions of dollars. They watch me travel the world. I've been to 58 countries. Like, they know that I would not give up. But that's not the Rodriguez spirit. We don't do that, And that's what my auntie said to the doctors, that mosquito messed with the wrong Rodriguez. That's right. God love her, Titi Marcy. She is fierce. She said, you messed with the wrong Rodriguez. And she said, you know the data, but you don't know my niece. And that's what she said to the doctor, you just don't know my niece.
Come on.
Yeah,
I feel like in the Bible, when they tested Job, like, it's like, have you tried? You might try this person over here and they not gonna make it. But have you tried? Stephenie? That's how I feel.
I'm Job's cousin. Right. I've said that more times than once. I'm like, hi, I'm Job's cousin Steph.
But what I love about that and what it shows us, I think what is so powerful is God teaches us to be proactive, not reactive, right? Yes. And so because we never know what we're going to face. So what we're doing today, who we are today is important because it's in preparation for what he already knows to come. So
yes, he has the end of the story.
Exactly. So like the prayer you were saying every day, who knew you would need to draw on that same prayer while you were in a coma, like, rehearsing it. But if it wasn't in there, then how could it be drawn out? I just see the tenacity that you had is something that helped you to be able to travel along this journey that you indeed had no clue was coming. I think the other thing I want to say, Tanya, before I turn it over to you, is we alluded to this in the pre-show. Y'all, the pre-show is always honey. It's just we had to hurry up and go live because we were sharing so much. But I have to say this publicly is you had surgery on Wednesday. Today is Saturday. By now it's 2:30 in the morning and you're up looking like a GQ model, right? With your hair done, your lipstick is popping, okay? And
got your lashes
Come on, girl. Come on.
Okay. And bigger than that, you showed up with an attitude of gratitude and thanksgiving. So I'm going to ask you this question. How did you keep yourself from having a victim mentality after you have had so much trauma, so many
surgeries?
Help Tanya, help the people so that we can just journey with you on how you are showing up still after all of that adversity.
Well, it hasn't been a picnic, and I have never experienced anything more painful. I mean, and the amount of pain medicine that was given, because my feet were so damaged, and they were unrelenting. And gravity is not your friend. Even sitting in a wheelchair with feet hanging down, gravity's pulling on me, and they were just. And I was trapped in chronic pain, and that was difficult. But my faith told me that I would get there. But I don't know who. I'm not quite sure. I remember exactly who said this to me or where I deduced it. But I had an epiphany from some aha moment. But I worked out that this wasn't an accident, and I call it an ordeal, because it was an ordeal, a big ordeal, but it wasn't an accident, and I don't believe it was an accident. And this very wise woman, Jody Staley in Miami, who told me that pure evil attacked my body. She said, I have to find the nicest way to say this, but the expression "don't write checks with your mouth," that expression. She said, you were writing some big old checks with your mouth.
Yes,
and that the universe, God, and experience created a paradigm for you to achieve that big, hairy, audacious goal of 1 billion lives by 2025. I had to lose my feet in order to get the opportunity to serve in the way in which I felt compelled to.
My God.
In that exercise and leading up to it, and finally getting to that point of, okay, I'll yield. Okay, I'll yield. I've been grateful every single day since I woke up from that coma. And I tell people that, every day is a good day, even the bad ones.
Yes.
As long as I'm still breathing, I'm achieving, It's a good day. And God is good, like for me to even get the chance to be here and to share this is me serving in the way in which I was compelled and ordained to do.
So
but this wasn't an ordeal. I don't see it as an ordeal, much more a bridge from where I was and how I was showing up to where I need to be in order to complete that mission, to deliver on that service. And it involved me having to make very big sacrifices, and the sacrifice, like all I wanted to do was get out of the chair so that I could get back to the mission. I went to Africa and India to help save lives. It was an unfortunate ordeal, but my mission was clear then, and it's just as just as clear now and just as much more reinforced. And I'm just as excited. I mean, all I want to do is put my robotic feet on and get running.
Yes,
and I will.
My God.
And you know, when you see me dancing, it's going to be a hallelujah chorus, because that's where we're going with this. But you know, when I had that clarity, really, and I think it was Jody in October. We didn't know in October, when I woke up in 2019, that I would then spend most of 2020 and all of Q4 of 2019 in the hospital. I was never told where the end point would be of my recovery. Doctors at Harvard, at Mass Gen, told me it'd take 4 years to get better. And I'm like, I got stuff to do, and 2025 is coming. You know, the UN SDGs are here for a reason, and I want to do what I committed to do.
My God.
So, you know,
Powerful.
of intention.
Yeah.
The clarity of purpose and intention. And when I got clear on that, you know, it calibrated that everything I needed would come, even if I couldn't see it, even down to meeting the doctor in 2015 and shaking his hand and making that connection that would pop up in my head. Was the will of God.
Will of God. So that good.
It's so powerful, Stephenie. I mean, nothing happens by accident. Your courage and your strength. I mean, I'm sitting here with that same ball of fire in my soul right now, listening to you speak, because for you to sit up and we could spend time on the ugly parts, because we don't want to act like that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
The amount of time that you give away,
come on,
is an action of giving away that time. To spend on that, to spend on it. Yes, there's phantom pain, but look how briefly you address that.
Yes,
that's the amount of time that it deserves. That's right. You sit up and think about your mission. You're in a coma and you're thinking about your mission and listening to a song and wanting to hold your son. All of those things keep you going. And people find reasons to not. Every day, people find reasons, whatever the end of the knot is, they find reasons to not show up and to be in gratitude. And your story just counteracts all of that. I watched a sermon yesterday by Pastor Michael Todd. And one of the things that he said was, you get to a place in your life sometimes, his son is autistic and he hasn't spoken. And, you know, you get to a place, he said, where you just say to yourself, because of your faith, I don't see it, but he said it. I don't see it right now, but he said it. And if he said it, it will be. So, you know, that switch inside of Stephenie, that switch that says, well, God told me if I take a leap of faith, he will meet me there. You just keep going. IV and all, cute in the camera. 2:30 3 o'clock in the morning, and you just keep going. And I'm just so honored. Benicia and I both are so honored to have you.
Yeah, so inspired by, you know, your story. But I think what you said is so key, right? We look for a lot of external things to affirm us and, you know, to make us feel worthy and all of those things, when really the only thing that really brings that contentment and that joy is purpose. Even in the midst of everything that you're going through, the one thing besides your son, I'm sure your family, of course, your love for God, is that you know you're here on purpose. A matter of fact, you were left here on purpose, because only 2% of individuals. So what I also love about your story is that you didn't get mad at God and turn your back on him. A matter of fact, you kind of embraced God. This is you. Like the doctor told you, this was evil. But the Bible even says what the devil meant for bad, God will turn around for your good. But I also believe that you have to be a participant in that. And one thing you talked about was being intentional.
Yes.
How important is that, to be intentional about? I'm sure you have to continue to encourage yourself. So how important is it to be intentional and partner with what God is doing?
Well, you have to look at every single day and what you're doing and how you're showing up, you know, in your job, in your socializing, and everything that you do. And, you know, there are no what's the word? Part of cerebral malarias and septic shock has short-term memory, and I lose words. So there is a word. Hang on, let me try and see if I can remember it. Or stupid. But you know, in what you do, knowing that there's a higher purpose behind you always.
Yes.
It is really when you come to terms with that, because the why, you know, make no mistake. I spent many a nights crying, going, God, why me?
Yes.
Why me? And so many people tell me how much I inspire them and all of this. And I'm like, I don't get a little fairy with coffee that comes to my bedside every morning and goes, would you like to get up today and face the day?
It's a decision.
Talk about it, Stephenie.
Yes, Stephenie.
I don't have that fairy that comes ever and asks me if I choose to get up and serve today.
Jesus.
It's just get up and get on with it. And you know, the wheelchair became my feet. I went to concerts, I went to lunches, like, and people were like, oh, you're recovered. You know, I just wanted, once I worked out that I was here for a reason, I wanted to get on with it.
Yeah.
And then of course, you know, that chronic pain cave, like I was in a hole that I couldn't get on with my mission. It was just survival mode. And you know, I was unhappy. You know, I was still in a service mode, but frustrated. I got so frustrated, and it really came to that. Okay, God, you put me here for a reason. And I think sometimes we have to actually shake our finger in the face of God and say, okay, you need to move me forward on this. I'm here. I'm ready.
Help me out here. Help me out. Yeah,
that's right.
Really, that's how it came down to, you know, the bilateral amputations and what that would mean. Because, you know, and for me, how I show up, you know, as an amputee now with robotic feet, I can't hide that. Everybody's going to see it, you know, and to own that change in my body, accept that it's done for a reason, even if I can't understand it. And I'll have to tell that story for every person that walks up and goes, oh my God, those are so cool, you know, that I get to tell them, you know, the story behind that why. And, you know, for all the big things that I was trying to prevent others, you know, this was also an implosion, because everything I was doing for everyone else to save the world, to then get forced to only being able to survive and face a day and get through a day. You know, and it was the misery behind the pain. But to believe that that if I was steadfast, I could get through this. And I would just take it one day at a time. And, you know, in prayer, my prayer and the prayers of others and my faith, you know, I was raised in the church, you know, that I, from a very early age, was taught that faith, you know, was the evidence of things hoped for but not seen. But, you know, I couldn't see where the healing would take place, but I had to believe it. And I just had to believe that this would, you know, at some point come good, and that there would be a reason for it. And that is my testimony. You know, the Bible is my testimony. I am here for a reason. And I, you know, I do believe that, you know, the devil didn't like much that I was showing up wanting to help a whole bunch of people and stop misbehaving. That, you know, I was a target, and a big target, because I kept on saying 1 billion lives and, you know, big numbers. And that, you know, made me a target for you know, mischief that that attacked me.
My God.
You know, in the form of deadly things I can't even see.
Yeah. But what it shows us, and we can be so solid on this, no matter what any of us face, is that the enemy cannot snatch you out of God's hands. So they
That's
tried
right.
it. You know what I mean? It
Yes.
was an ordeal, like you said. You're still navigating it, but you're also still here. What a
Mm.
blessing. What a blessing, and what a purpose and destiny that God has on your life. We just pray favor and long,
Yes,
healthy,
ma'am.
wealthy life over you and your
Yes, ma'am.
mission, your inventions. Like, how amazing. I am so
Mhm.
inspired, Tanya. So
I know, me too. Me now you see why I was all worked up about
mm-hmm.
her yes. I get
Yes,
all worked up about all the yeses,
yes.
but I was worked up about this yes because
My God.
God said when you were speaking, he was like, you have to reach out to her. Like
Mm-hmm.
now, I'm like, she's still talking. She's still talk. Yes, but Clubhouse lets you go out into Instagram.
Yeah.
You need to write her right now.
Mm,
She's talking.
my God.
Ask her to be on the show because she's going to impact so many lives with her story. And I thank you for your grace and
Yes.
I thank you for your courage and your
My God.
strength, Stephenie.
Mm-hmm.
And just a little biased shout out for you to represent all of us Latinas around the world to
Mm-hmm.
say, you know what? Si se puede. Yes, you can, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're walking that every day.
My God.
And another special shout out to somebody who is hugely special, somebody that you've impacted like
Mm,
nobody else that you've touched.
mm,
And you may not even see it all materializing right now,
yeah.
but your son,
Mm, yes.
it makes me want to cry. I don't even have a son.
Mm,
But what you have done and
mm-hmm.
what you have shown him through
Yeah.
this journey,
Yeah.
you think you're going to help a billion people. What you're pouring into your son,
Yes. Carry the
his generation and his generations, his children and his children's children will know
mm-hmm.
that you can and
So
you
good.
faith lives,
Mhm.
faith works.
Yes.
I'm floored and honored to have you here.
Yes.
And I put your website
Mm-hmm.
for Wander Safe and your Twitter and IG in the comments. I'm going to
Yeah.
share those pictures that you sent me too.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, if folks want to go to your GoFundMe,
Yes.
they're welcome to do that. I'm happy to share that as well.
They can just go to GoFundMe and type in the malaria miracle because
Mm-hmm.
that's what was given.
It'll come up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was so sweet that the folks in Africa, in India, because I spoke at both of their Hive events and other events, you know, around the UN, etc. When they found out what happened, because I had gone and done all of this sowing of seeds. This product was in development, you know, there was it was synchronicity. Like we were so in the right place at the right time. Everything felt just perfect synchronicity. And then I disappeared and no one heard from me for 60 days because when I came out of the coma, I couldn't move anything but my head and my neck. So every single thing that I had to do had to be relearned. And opening up a laptop and sending an email to a client or a colleague in Africa or in India, I couldn't do.
Right.
And you know, being in a startup and not having a secretary to do for me meant that people were just waiting and I was off the radar. And when they learned, you know, one of the key takeaways of this experience that I feel compelled to share is, you know, I have always been a doer. And Brene Brown speaks about, you know, the ability to come full circle or the people who are the doers, because we're not really good at receiving, you know?
So true.
Yeah,
orchestrate.
I love her. She hits it spot on.
Yeah, and so when I heard her speak about this on her Netflix special, it really resonated with me. But even in not just the GoFundMe, but even people who, during our COVID lockdown in Australia, I was in the hospital. I was already in there, so I couldn't come out, but nobody could come in. And being in the hospital is like a better form of prison, like food. beds are a little bit better, but not by much. And, it was lonely, but, people would do crazy stuff. Like one friend of mine who would sit on Facebook and make pasta. He was a very good chef of a Michelin-headed restaurant. He made food and put it in an Uber and gave it to a nurse who brought it to my room.
Come on.
Homemade meals.
Yeah.
Someone sent me coloring books and art supplies. Somebody else, sent me pizza. And it was hot because I was craving pizza from being, away from everything for so long. But I got to bear witness to extraordinary kindness. Yeah. And me going from able-bodied to being in a wheelchair, even little things like being in a supermarket and the thing I want is on the high shelf and I can't get up and get it. Yeah. And somebody will look and go, can I get that for you? And I'm like, yes, please. Yeah. It is being on the receiving end of so much kindness. And we don't read about the good stuff. We don't hear about the good stuff. We hear about the bad stuff. Yeah. But as I live and breathe, I believe that people are genuinely good.
Yes.
And to be on the receiving end of so much kindness. I call it extraordinary kindness because it was people really doing things that I never expected. And when it came to me being completely helpless, early days coming out of that coma, I couldn't move and I couldn't get out of bed. So reading between the lines, it's all bathing, toileting, everything, I had to let go of my body and yield to everything else.
My God.
That is so huge. That is so huge.
Surrendering.
Yes.
My God. But
and doers don't surrender with it's not an easy thing for doers to surrender.
No. Oh gosh. But it's so necessary, and I would pray that even from your testimony that we would learn to begin to deal with that area, you know what I mean? And yield. Like there's so many areas that I just wouldn't. And then something happened that made me, and the Lord was like, Benicia, you can position, you can't stop everything. But you can position yourself to be willing and obedient so that some of these things you're creating, some things you have no control over. So yielding and surrendering is so true. And I'm sure that's something that you have to do, every day. But I also want to say it's so important to be that person that sows seeds because the Bible says we reap what we sow. So all of those amazing people that did all of those amazing things for you, I'm sure they thought you were amazing. So you have to show yourself friendly in order to reap, benefits. And that's why it's important that we love. That's why we, treat people the way we want to be treated because we never know when we're going to be on the other side of the coin and people will be so willing, right? Because of, the love and your purpose and just watching. I'm sure you honestly changed the world. That is so inspiring. And then to see you on the other side of that, so I'm definitely going to sow into your GoFundMe because I believe in, the purpose. I believe in you and, I believe in God and I believe he spared you because you still have work to do. Yes, still have work to do.
Even with robotic feet,
Even with robotic feet.
Right. I've got 8 weeks of rehab to undergo to learn to walk again.
My God.
And the pictures that I shared, one of the pictures was of today of me working in the physio rehab, and that's pretty. It's hard, standing up on these titanium pins, my body's in a full sweat as if I'm running. A marathon, the effort that it takes to do that. And I have to build back my muscles in my body because I was in bed and, the muscle atrophy and in a wheelchair for 17 months. But I'm committed. I am committed and steadfast that I will walk again unaided and serve this mission.
Yes,
that's what I'm here to do.
Yes.
But if I can inspire others, then it makes every day and every pain and every stitch and every skin graft and every moment that I spent having to focus on the battle of one versus the battles of many, that it's not for naught. You know,
Yes.
and that's been my prayer. God, let this not be in vain.
Amen.
You know?
So good. I know
So
Tanya
good.
and I are going to keep you in our prayers. You know, sometimes you see someone, you're inspired by their story, and guess what? You turn off, and life gets real for all of us. But I just believe in the power of prayer. I believe the power of prayer is why you're still here. And so Tanya and I are going to do that. And I pray that our listeners, as Stephenie comes to mind, because you know God will bring somebody across your mind, and pray, because we never know what type of day she's having. You know, we never know what's going on, but we know that God knows everything, and prayer changes things. So you definitely have Tanya and I's support.
Yes, definitely. And it's Malarian Miracle, right? Is it all one word?
The Malaria Miracle, I believe.
The Malaria. Okay, I'm gonna make sure I get that right.
But there's a short link that's easy. It's a bit.ly link, bit.ly/FUND STEPH. So fund step.
FUND and then capital
STEPH. Fund step. So that's a shortcut. Yeah, and there's a lot. There's the whole story updated, how I was feeling, what was going on. It's got 80 something updates to it, because it was started in September and it's still there. But you know, it has been a journey to go from where I was before to being restored. You know, and the gratitude that I have every day that I'm here to have another conversation, that I'm here to learn something new. Smell these beautiful roses in my room. You know, it's, you know, the glass is always half full with me. And if I can inspire and encourage others through my testimony, then so be it.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely put a big dent in your mission today.
Amen.
You definitely did. We are so grateful for you, and we're so happy that you say yes. Get up and continue your mission. Those pictures are awesome. Seeing you fight the good fight through therapy. I tried sharing them the normal way, but it didn't want to do pictures, so I'm going to figure it out, and we're going to get them out there. So people can see you and feel you, because you are a superwoman.
Yes, you are a miracle. Miracle.
And about to become bionic, apparently.
Yes, ma'am.
The bionic miracle.
No million. You are the $1 billion lady.
Okay. So Stephenie, make sure you go back and you view this, because the feed is going nuts with people saying that they're praying for you, how inspired they are about your story, how committed you are. So go back. You know, I know those type of things help me when you're having certain days, and it feels like, is it worth it? Of course it is. But things like this will definitely help stir your faith. So,
Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah, we thank you.
Yes, we thank you. Even for sending us, you know, thinking about us. You know, she's in the hospital and still thinking about us enough to see her invention. Is it?
We have to get some more. So don't be surprised. You'll see us pop up on the website. We have to get some more.
Definitely.
So
they're very. They come in rose gold, which are the feminine version. Yeah. So we'll make sure you get a rose gold one. The black is very chic, but it's you know, it was with Jozu for Women, which is the company that I started, you know, designed to help women, but it was at the request of others, the vulnerable, we call them, that they said, don't exclude us. We want to carry this. We want to use your solution. And, you know, we don't want to necessarily, you know, with all this gender, you know, identity thing that is now the trend, to open it up for everybody. So we just became inclusive and said, if you want to have a nonviolent safety device and an app that goes with it, the app is actually the real muscle. The app is incredible. And it's, you know, the box will tell you how to download it. It's the Wander Safe Beacon on both app stores, but the app is powerful because you can set up shortcuts to calling for help. Lock the app. You can create a safety tribe, which is what we were thinking about for Nigeria, and also for Kenya, was the means for women in that slum, the Makulu slum, to create a means to help each other by being able to use the device, that sound, to call out for help. It's loud.
Yes.
And in a slum, that's a lot of noise, where people can hear, where people can come to each other's aid, and to aid these villages and then to create their own safety environment. So I can't wait. People go, "Oh, will you go back to Africa?" And I'm like, absolutely. My work is not done. So we have a lot to do. But we'll get.
Yes. So ladies, gentlemen watching, go to the website. Listen, even as believers, right? We love God. We have faith in God, but we need wisdom and to be proactive. So when Benicia goes out and it's late at night, guess what she's going to have? This with my angels, my army of angels around me, and my faith in Jesus. So go and
can't nobody touch any of that.
That's right. I'm fully armored, and spiritually. So go and get yours. I'm so grateful that you sent this to us. Thank you so much for your generosity and your kindness.
No, my pleasure. And it's just really great to connect. I'm on Clubhouse, so
yes,
let's do some rooms and talk about good things and faith, and I'm here to serve. So thank you so much for inviting me to join you. Thank you everyone who is listening for letting me share my story.
Oh, amen. This has been a blessing to us, and we are going to let you lay back in that bed and get some rest.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
God bless.
Good night. Good day, should I say?
Yeah.
Happy
Sunday here.
I'll
eventually make it back over there, and we'll spend some time.
We'll be back in the States as soon as the borders are open. Australia has done very well with COVID.
Yeah,
I managed it very, very well, to the point where we don't have deaths, and most of the COVID cases that are here see people landing with it, and that's routine. So we've really Australia's managed a good program, but our government won't let us leave, so we can't actually go overseas until the vaccine and there's a program. So we're a little bit stranded, but as soon as my feet are on my feet and our wings are not clipped, we'll be back on that path. And
you let us know when you hit stateside.
Yeah, for sure.
And yes, I'll reach out on Instagram for when my book's launching. My book is called.
Oh, well, yes, we'll love to have you back for that.
Yes, absolutely.
The book's called "Thank You, Mrs. Carter." Any guesses as to why and who?
Mrs. Carter. Thank you, Mrs. Carter. Who is Mrs. Carter?
Not hard. Beyonce.
Oh, Beyonce.
Oh.
Really? Tell us about that a little bit.
Well, it's so ridiculous, but it's so beautiful. My auntie, T.T. Marcy, who I keep talking about, she had pinged me and said, "You must watch Homecoming," because she was really moved by it. And I put it up on Netflix and made my son watch it and talk to him about, historic Black colleges and universities and why this was important. And we watched it and danced with Beyonce. And so I'm in ICU and I can't do anything. So my son puts it on my laptop. And as I said, when I woke up from the coma, I could move nothing. Now I'm a singer and a dancer and quite active, and all of a sudden can't move anything. So he put it on, and every single night I would watch that 2-hour her Coachella show and that story of empowerment and what she did with her body. And I'd sing and dance with Beyonce every single night in the hospital. And when I was all by myself, she was my coach. And all of her songs of empowerment and shaking that booty across the stage. And I was every day with her. I couldn't move, but I was thinking about it.
Inside you was
moving in your spirit.
Yes. Inside, yes.
Exactly. But you know what? That got me out of that bed.
Wow.
You know, we talked about what motivated me, and I watched it every single night.
Wow.
And that's
I could use anything.
Your forward, Stephenie. She's got to write your forward for the book.
I was going to say, I hope she hears your story.
I do too.
Yeah.
And I would love to write my forward.
This as soon as it uploads, you need to send it to her.
Yes, for sure. For sure. God can use anything. We just have to be open. And like you said, look at the glass as half full. You know, what can I do? You know, instead of being so focused on what I can't do. Well, what can I do? I can watch this video, you know, so powerful.
That was all I could do. But that moving, and I mean, and again, and it was so powerful because going from waking up and I couldn't move my hand to touch my nose to the
turn a page in a book, nothing.
That I could wave at the nurse when she came in and raised my arm above my head. You would have thought I won the Boston Marathon because that was such a powerful moment. And, you know, I had to convince my family, who were all overwhelmed at this, how much this had debilitated me, that I could come back. Have faith, fear not. I will get better, I promise. You know, that was I have to do this. But Beyonce was my coach, as ridiculous as that sounds.
That is something else.
I figured the least I could do was give her the title of that book and this part of the story and thank her, because she, you know, people say, you know, most people would have given up, but I don't know what give up means.
Yeah.
But I do know that encouraged me, her story and that story and you know, being remarkable, that reminded me of my purpose and to get my butt out of that bed. So that, you know, I owe that to her.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Yep.
That is awesome. Thank you again, sweetie.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yes.
And Mavis says, yes, Mrs. Carter, Beyonce inspires me so many. Wonderful motivation for a life-changing experience.
God said he takes the foolish things and confounds the wise, things that we wouldn't even think, you know what I mean? And so we just can't put God in a box. We just really can't. And at the end of the day, we know that his hand is on your life for sure. Nobody can deny that. So go and be great with everything that he has given you, and the world awaits all that you have to offer. Yes.
We'll be running. We'll be dancing.
Rest well. Rest well, sweetie.
Yes.
Definitely.
Rest well.
Very much.
You've earned a good rest.
Yes. And we will see, right, our audience next week. Same time and same place for another story of Arise and Shine, stories of triumph. Now you go be great too and triumph over everything that will come your way. God has definitely filled our tanks today, so we'll have something to draw on. So Tanya and I appreciate you so much. Right, Tanya?
Oh, yeah, we do. We appreciate you guys. And know that your story is not for you. It is not for you. So don't ever get confused about that.
That's right.
Your purpose is bigger than you are.
Yes.
And as long as you stay connected to Daddy, he will remind you of that.
Yes, he will.
Every chance that he gets. So we will sign off. I have a note for you guys to be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at ariseandshine.live, and you can see the past episodes there. And we will definitely have Stephenie back when that great book comes out. Maybe Beyonce will come with her and we'll get a little. Yes, move, go girl.
Yes.
All right, guys, take care. We will see you next week with another amazing story of triumph.